Well, hey, let me be the one to officially get things underway here. It is Friday, April the 3rd, and we may or may not have some technical issues as we go on here because we're shifting up the way we do things behind the scenes. But today's topic, Tim, Marcel, we're going to do an Ask Me Anything. So we're going to get into, I'm sure, questions about PPP and EIDL and where do we go from here, among other things. But I know on a practical level, some people are just asking simple questions like, Marcel, where are you going to go to get a haircut?
I wish I knew that answer. It's
impossible. Tim, tell us, what are you doing?
Oh my gosh, when I was leaving New York City, I was right next to my barber shop and I thought I should go in there real quick and get a haircut. And I swear I was thinking it, then I thought, no, I'll just be back in a few weeks. I can do it then. Darn it. Like it's going to go crazy. So as part of this, I think China being shut down also changed my hair product line. So I got this thing from Amazon that looks nothing like the consistency of what it's used to. So now I feel like I'm just putting like plumber's putty in my hair or something. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore.
Well, I was going to say we should probably start off and not miss out an opportunity to share a few announcements. I was excited. I just noticed today the Slack channel that we created, moving from Facebook to Slack, we just hit 325 owners from around the world. So that's really incredible. And I'm very thankful for everyone that has jumped into that Slack channel. There's been a ton of conversations. And this week, the finance channel has blown up with everyone talking about PPP and the EIDL and sharing forms and webinars and all this other good stuff. So that's been really exciting. But what else do we want to share? Tim, do you have anything?
Yeah, if you're in the Slack channel and part of that blow up, you know I've uploaded a worksheet and I've been updating it throughout the day just based on different information that's coming through. Probably the most confusing element to that is this contractor line or subcontractor line and how to deal with that. So I'm doing the best I can, but at least it's a worksheet. You can plug in the information, the basic information, and get a whole number and apply for the loan. I have told people, hey, just remember you're doing application and the bank itself might help you figure out the qualifications of these contractors or not. But it's available to you. It's for download. Just make a copy of it. Feel free to use it. And I'll keep updating it as we go along.
Marcel, what about you? Do you have any news for us? Anything from your world that you want to share with everyone before we start opening up to questions and diving into this Friday topic?
Yeah, well, I had an awesome conversation with about 25 creative directors today about an initiative still in the works, and we'll share some thoughts with the community soon. We're trying to wrap our heads around like some sort of like actions that we can take, and I'll definitely keep you guys posted once I have more information. But it's all good stuff. All like one of my probably like the 25 people there, 24 are my idols. So it was like amazing to be part of that call today. But we'll share some stuff with you guys soon.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, I just remembered, thank you for the reminder, Tim, that I finally got this sales pipeline basics module completed, and it's now online, it's live. So for anybody who wants it, I'm sharing it free. So I'll drop a link in the Slack channel. I'll also drop it here as we go along in the chat. But I'm very excited to share that because a lot of people, of course, are wondering, okay, how do I get through this season and stay on top of all my follow-ups and outreach? We're just in that season, Tim, as you know well, where sometimes the difference between landing one job or not can mean the difference between making payroll or paying your rent or something. So I really want to get this into people's hands to help them.
Yeah, it's so important today. We should say for those watching on YouTube or anyone listening to the podcast, we'll put that information in the descriptor as well. So the links are available for the worksheet and the sales module, wherever you're listening to this.
Beautiful. So Tim, I know we had a bunch of questions that we said, hey, let's do a little recap of what we covered this past week, because we had a lot of topics, mostly in that financial ingredient stuff. But we also got a lot of questions as we went along that we didn't get to, and that might be a good place to start. So if you have a question that you want to drop in the chat right now, of course, do that. But Tim, you've got a few questions already primed. So the pump is already primed, so to speak. Which question did you want to start with?
Yeah, well, obviously what's probably on everyone's mind today that's been listening to this or any news is this PPP loan with the banks. It's been crazy, hasn't it? Every hour of every day. Last night at 9 p.m. I was getting updates. So it feels like it's almost kind of a holiday, doesn't it? Like PPP Friday. The bookkeepers were already chatting with me at 7 a.m. this morning. So many of the questions that I've been dealing with today deal with that. I got this one from Joe, and he just asked me, hey, I'm curious with these forgivable loans for companies that retain employees. Is it possible that companies might qualify for forgivable loans if they create opportunities and bring someone on? The answer to that is yes. I think what the PPP is going to allow you to do is they're using an average of your your previous 12 months payroll. And that's going to give you the amount you qualify for a loan. The bank's then going to give you that money, going to deposit in that bank account, and then you can spend it on payroll and rent and utilities. When you spend it on those three areas, then that piece of the loan is forgiven. You will not pay any money for it. You have up to 6 months to do the audit for that process. You have an 8-week period to finance that payroll in that process. But what is not necessary is to retain current people in order to qualify, or have to pay the same people that existed, in the previous 12 months in order to spend it on payroll. That is not necessary. So as I've been saying all week long, you still have to have good business practices. You have to spend less than you make. You have to right size your payables to match your receivables. Make sure you're doing that first. And then when you do get the money from the SBA, then you can use it in those areas. And you can grow your company, do the right investment over that 8-week period, and just kind of jumpstart you into the weeks after this craziness is over. Which is going to be soon, right? Marcel, you've been watching the news. You know that we're going to be done with this in a few weeks.
I hope so. I think that's the question that we all have right now is when this thing is going to be over, and not over, but a little bit better, So being stuck or not being able to do your usual business, sort of like it. When someone takes, I can share something with you, Tim, from my own perspective, is that when I moved to the States, when I applied for my work visa, the first one, right? So the first work visa I got, Thais came with me, and then Thais couldn't work because the work visa was just for me. Now, it's sort of like the same sort of feeling, a little bit different. But it's sort of like a deja vu for me. It's like, because she got stuck for 3 years before she got her work permit. So it's like, oh my God, it feels like, this whole situation is happening with a lot of people. So I can't wait to, sort of like have everyone to come back to normal. But what I wanted to highlight today, and this is from a personal side, me and Tim went on an exercise last night where he was taking a look at the cash flow from state and making like some changes, or like, thinking how we should think. And man, I gotta say that, and I want to make sure that all the people who are watching this, I get no commission on this. I'm not a partner of RevThink. I don't really care, really, it's fine. All I need you guys to realize is that there are some knowledge that we as a business owner, we have no clue about, even though I'm a better creative than, like a better finance guy. But if I have the knowledge how to read my numbers, I can make better creative decisions. So that exercise yesterday, Tim, I gotta say, we finished that call, and just my positivity went to the roof. I was like, oh my God, so many things I can play with because I know how to read that. So I wish I could explain that in depth to people who are not doing that, to actually do it right now. Don't wait too much, because even like things are changing on a daily basis. So you need to get on this right now. And again, I get no commission. I have no interest in this thing. All I want you guys to do, I wanted my industry to survive, you know,
Yeah.
and I wanted all the studios, all my peers, all of them to succeed together through crisis. So if you don't do that, please try to get that on that right now, because it's so important, and it's going to give you like a flare, like a, you know, another injection of positivity.
Well, Marcel, we don't even, you know, for the last couple of weeks, we haven't even got commission on this stuff. We've been doing a lot of those cash flow recalls, just pro bono, for the exact same reasons. Where really just want people to have some visibility on the decisions they should be making over the next 8 weeks. It's such an important time to right size your company and put that in balance. And in like your case, you know, we basically found that tipping point that, you know, if something happens, you know when to react and what kind of reaction to put in place. If another thing happens, you have another tipping point, and then you can manage towards those decisions as what information you get from your clients, information you're getting from expenses, different deals you can negotiate with freelancers. So it really is the right time. I think people are finding that vulnerability important right now, and anything we could do to help. We're so happy.
Well, because I'm sorry, I would say something here real quick from my perspective is, I really love the idea of analyzing your cash flow. And I keep coming back to this subject because it's so important. Like, all the business owners should take a look at that now. Because right now, through crisis, all we're thinking is like maximizing our, you know, reach out and try to get projects and all that. But the reality is understanding how much you actually need, you know, and it's going to give you like a peace of mind for the upcoming weeks and all of that. So I would say we should, I wish I could like share more information, because I can't tell you how much excited I was.
Yeah, turn it on, Marcel. Show them your cash flow. They would love to see.
If you guys can pay me, I'll show you my cash flow.
Well, I will say this. Let me chime in, because I ran Impossible Pictures for 20 years. And Tim, you know this, when I met you and you were my consultant back in the day, I was actually a little bit mad, because I felt like, oh man, Tim, where were you 7 or 8 years ago? Because if I had been using some of these really simple tools and reports to run my business, I would have slept a lot better at night. I mean, I would have made more money too. I'm not going to lie. There was a selfish motivation behind that statement. But it is like you said, Marcel, you as an owner, you have a genius that you have to focus on. It's critical. Your business is only going to run if you can focus on doing that thing that you love. And if your jam is not cash flow reports and finances, then this kind of a tool is so super helpful.
I told this story this morning on the RevThink call, but I was reminded of Josh Norton. He went to a wedding. I think it was Puerto Rico. And he was out swimming, and a storm came in, and he realized he was behind the waves. And he talked about how it was like fighting the waves and using energy and realizing he wasn't going to win. And then he remembered the basics. And by remembering the basics, he did a basic side stroke and slowly moved his way in to find a channel he can come into the beach. And I feel like people need that reminder right now. It really is the basics that are going to get us through this. Understanding your basic business principles, what you do for a living, and get a good sense of what it means to move forward beyond this and not be so stuck in this moment, not be stuck in this crisis and burn all of your energy right now in the crisis. Slow down, work the time through. There's principles that you know, there's practices you know. So I think, Marcel, your aha moment yesterday is one that I've been seeing people experience for the last couple of weeks, which is we can look at the decision points that you make as a business, ask some very simple questions and get some visibility, and then the power's back in your control, right? And you get a sense of, I know what to do with my business. So it's been a really great kind of outreach for us for the last couple of weeks.
No, it's a great analysis, and it gives you the peace of mind of like, okay, I have so much room to play with, but without even like, you know, with the money that I have, with the money that I save, but then just that knowledge you're seeing, like, don't touch this money here, you move this thing here, all these like things might land, and then you move your cost to this sort of like column. I'm like, okay, this is like an after effects for me now.
Yeah.
I can cut my layers and just move them around, and I have another animation. So pretty much that's like,
That's awesome.
what it is. That's how I could read the analysis that we did together. And it's such a simple, and again, I know, Tim, that sometimes from my perspective, when you say something, to me, it sounds a little like sometimes I need to focus like, okay, what Tim is saying here? And I'm trying to understand this, I really focus on, and I try to like close every window that I have, all the chats and everything. I'm like, no, he's saying something, let me focus so I can understand. So I get it. But once you're like explaining, it's so much easier, and like, you're seeing things moving around. Good. But I feel like now we should change the subject a little bit, because there are some questions that came last week, and maybe Joe, you can take that.
Well, actually, kind of thinking of the basics, Joel, Masha asked a question. And this is one, like, I know it's been on people's mind, really how to react to this in a marketing and sales way. So Masha asked the question, do you guys feel it's the good time to reevaluate your company or brand positioning? Is this the right time to like go back to that basic as well?
My gut tells me that's a little risky, and that's weird for me to say, because I would usually be the first person to encourage anyone that is saying, oh, maybe we should reposition and clarify and shift our direction. But I feel like right now, the classic adage, markets hate uncertainty. And I would just say that shifting your brand or your positioning right now is going to potentially add more confusion or complexity. So I would just give it a minute. Like, unless you have a really, really strong sense of who you are or what your creative firm is becoming, if 2 months from now, we are absolutely going to be going in this new direction, and you have total clarity around that, great. But if you don't have total clarity, I would give it a minute.
All right, so then I have one for you, Marcel, because this one is kind of dealing with the basics on projects. This is from Brent. He said, we've been negotiating pretty hard on a project before all this crisis happened. We were almost where we wanted to be, but the project's been gone quiet. Would you advise us to go back to client and offer to split the difference between our goal and their last wait, and then see how they respond?
Yes, please do. So I can give you like an example. I had a client that we were talking to a few weeks ago, and we went to their office to present our proposal for their project, and it was like a bigger project. And then all of a sudden, this whole thing happened, and then we were like, okay, let's reach out to them. And they're like, oh, this is all, we're gonna stop this now until we have more clarity. And I had two ways to see this, right? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna suck it in that email and say, thank you, I'll reach out to you in 2 months. Or in my head, I was like, okay, how can I at least save a portion of that project? So I came back to them with a different solution. I'm like, okay, we don't have to do the entire project right now, but what if we do like a part of a project, like a portion of it, maybe 35 to 40% now, so when this whole thing is over, we already have the foundation of the project, and then we can be faster when this whole thing comes back. So, and then the client was like, oh, that's a good idea, so I think that is feasible, and I can get that approved. So I came back, rewrote some of the ideas, and I sent it back, and now the project is back on track. So I didn't get the entire project, but I was able to get at least 40% of it. But that's pretty much, and then once the project is back, I don't want the client to rethink and reopen the conversation with all the competitors. All I was doing, I was like, okay, now if I do 30, 40% of the project now, most likely when this whole thing comes back, I'm gonna be getting that rest of it, because I already started. So that was like my thinking, okay, I can take an action now, but it's gonna lock me for the next couple of months. So even if we don't do the whole thing, we kind of finish that in the future.
I love that thought. Break up that project into pieces, negotiate different pieces separately. You might come to terms sooner of getting what they wanted, leaving it open later on for what you wanted, but really start the project going. That's very smart. I think we have a question from Daniel. Daniel, are you on? Can you, yeah. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Cool. Good to talk to you guys.
You too.
Well, I hate to jump into another PPP question because this is a great conversation and I'm really enjoying it. We've talked a lot about if we should, kind of really evaluate our position and work on these kinds of things. So I hate to detract from that to go to more PPP stuff, but I did have a question about that, a specific piece.
What do you got?
So I know that this has been asked, and I for some reason I'm just trying to make sure I understand this correctly. But regarding the application and calculating the EIDL advance within the total loan amount.
Yeah.
So I'm reading the guidelines here. It says if you took out an EIDL loan between February 15th and June 30th, and you want to refinance that into a PPP loan, you add the outstanding loan amendment to the payroll sum.
Yes.
Does that count for that $10,000 number that they, or the $10,000 grant that a lot of us applied for earlier this week? Do we add that in, or leave that out?
Yeah, so you'll add that $10,000 into it. So after you run your payroll calculation and you get your monthly average for payroll, you're going to multiply that times 2.5%.
Right.
So you have that amount, and then add the $10,000 to that monthly, that 2.5 times monthly.
Okay.
Average. What's going to happen is the bank will give you that $10,000 when they finance the PPP, and you'll use that $10,000 to pay back the EIDL.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. And we have not gotten that money yet, so that's why I was like, do we calculate it in there? Do we leave it out, or do we? So that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good question because a lot of people have not received the money. It was supposed to come in a few days, and it's been up to a week for a few people. I've heard some rumors that might take a few months to actually get that money. So you'll reconcile these accounts in 8 to 10 weeks anyway. And my guess would be both would show up. Please don't spend both, right? So if you're using the PPP to finance the EIDL and the EIDL comes in, make sure you cover those loans and reconcile it. But right now, again, you're just filling out an application. So your application, there will be probably a secondary process to process that application, get more information from you. And that's when you'll get your real amount of what that bank's going to finance.
Okay.
But as of right now, definitely put the 10,000 in there if you apply.
Great.
For it.
Thank you. That answers that.
No worries. Thanks for asking it. Should we go for another one of these questions here?
Let's do it.
For sure.
Okay, cool. There was one. The question was, had anyone gotten that money yet? So no, I kind of just answered that. Right now, it doesn't seem like that EIDL stuff, it has been showing up. It seemed like it was gonna be a promise straight into our checking accounts. I haven't received it. No one else has received it that I know of. So we're all kind of waiting for that. But let me just bring up this point as Jason asked that question. We actually don't know when any of this money is going to show up. So a lot of the planning we've been putting in place for companies is to imagine it not being there because it is a stimulus idea. I want you to run your business as if it's a business without the stimulus. And then when you get that money, let it stimulate you or your growth or your future and use it for what it's intended for. If you're running cash flow right now and you need that money to bail yourself out, you need to make different decisions. You absolutely need to start right-sizing your expenses to your revenue. And for sure, do not finance employees that don't have work to do or work to do in the future. Really be considering what it takes to run your business and right-sizing that as well.
That's good advice.
Well, I know we're within about 5 minutes of our half-hour mark. We don't have a hard out today like we did yesterday because of that Chase webinar that everyone was trying to get into. But I heard that webinar was not super helpful. Did anyone attend it and get anything out of it?
I watched it live. The funny thing to me, I was mentioning to Tim, is that webinar is actually intended to all sorts of businesses. For a coffee shop, for a body shop, and all, like a local store. It's not for us specifically. So pretty much like the whole thing was just educating people, like small businesses, To me, it didn't do anything. I think like halfway through, I lost interest. I'm like, whatever, so I'm just gonna go do something else. But yeah, I didn't get anything. I don't know if Tim had a chance to watch it yesterday.
I didn't watch it, but my curiosity, or my biggest concern for myself and others, is really, we know it's first come, first serve money. So there's kind of like a get to the front of the line chase to this process. And something like Chase Bank yesterday, what B of A did this morning, I'm still waiting for Wells Fargo to even acknowledge that the PPP exists. So if I know I'm going to change banks when this thing's done. But my concern is like, if Wells Fargo shows up later, am I missing out? And again, something that I've been talking to the experts and kind of getting a sense of is really the finance has been, that money has been distributed out to the banks already, or earmarked to the banks. So Chase has a total amount that they're kind of guaranteed. B of A, Wells Fargo, and up to 1,500 banks in the US already have a piece of it, or earmarked a piece of the money. And their process for you to apply and them to finance you is going to come from the finite amount of money that they have, not the overall global picture. So the Wells Fargo companies are not racing against and competing against Chase customers. Chase Bank has their way of determining it, B of A, and every bank down the road. Which would make me curious, and I've heard people talking about actually going to the lower local branches, the local lower banks, credit unions, and anyone with SBA associations. It might be a better path and a shorter way of getting some money, because their process might be shorter and more personalized. So something to consider over the next couple of days as you're dealing with this.
Well, very cool. We've got about 2 minutes left. Tim, do we have any other quick questions that we can tackle real quick, or anyone? Let's see here, Ethan. I'm going to check the feed and just see if there's anyone that has jumped in here at the last minute. Oh, thanks for the heads up there from Jason at Cause and Effect, was saying, yeah, that webinar was worthless. Well, Tim, let's ask this question. Do you have any other announcements that you want to share with folks before they head into the weekend? Give us some sort of a thought about what this week has meant and what we're going to be looking at as we get into next week.
Yeah, I think the journey I've been on this week was, I started this week really focusing on this Friday and getting that application done. And after we talked to Louie on Tuesday, I had a really good sense of what the loans were going to be about, how to use them, and then how to put that into my pipeline to start making decisions. So really, it was yesterday I started realizing, wait, I have to go back and start running my business. I have to open up my mind and my thoughts of what's it going to take to get to the other side of it. And talking to clients, that's what we've been focusing on a lot. It's really what you're going to be doing in August and September is what we need to see right now. So working with people's cash flow, what I'm trying to do is have people have a lot of cash, or stack the cash as late as possible in June and July, and let that be the launching point for business. That's what we want to do as much as possible in the next couple days. And then next week, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about really what it means to kind of start having some vision and purpose with those funds as the disruption kind of plays itself out.
Yeah, Marcel, I'm thinking back to what you shared. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but that you're already starting to think about some things that are way beyond June. You're looking into the fall even and starting to ponder. And I know this is like the way the brain of the creative entrepreneur works, right? You're starting to imagine, and that's starting to bring about perhaps a change in your vision and direction. So I'm looking forward to hearing more of that as you process that into the week ahead.
Yeah, I feel like I've noticed that the weeks has been like, like 1 week looks like it's been like a month of information, so every day there's so much compiling, and you're like, oh, you're trying to catch up. So with that, I'm trying to focus on my own actions. Like, what do I have control on? Like, I have control over my actions, not with everything else. But I'm learning how to react to the external factors. So for example, doing that analysis of the cash flow with Tim was like, amazing. Doing like, this daily briefing with you guys, hearing from Louie gives me more information. So I can see myself, and I'm with Tim. I'm trying to stretch, my business as much as I can, because I want to be ready in like August. I want to be ready in September, October, November. So I want to be ready for that, because now it's a time of uncertainty. So we're all like trying. I got to tell you guys, there's so many things going on, projects that we jump on a call, but the decisions are being made like on a daily basis. So we're gonna start a project tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes in and it's like, okay, we're gonna make a decision next week. So they're pushing like by days. So every day is changing. But as long as we keep the conversation going, I feel like it's still on. So I'm trying to focus that I kind of like the game, you know? So I'm trying to find some sort of fun in there, but also keeping my eyes on the business and the numbers and really talking to everyone I can to just keep the conversation going.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, Tim, do you want to offer your parting thought as well, and then hand it off to Marcel, and I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, Joel, I shared a quote with you earlier today, and I think you might have thrown that into Keynote. But I love this quote from Bruce Lee. Do you have that one?
Yeah, let me get it up. I've got it right here.
The thought is here, his quote is, don't pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. And the thought here is really, it's not the thought of like praying for a hard life or wishing difficulty on top of you. But as we live out the life, what we're looking for is the ability to really know who we are, how to focus on the core elements, and have that strength or that knowledge, that internal peace to endure past the difficult ones. I wanted to share that with you because I believe all of us right now kind of need to take a weekend break and know that we are good, we're healthy, our families are strong, and you have the ability and capability to get through this time. So my belief still is in gratitude, abundance, thriving, and hope. And I hope that this weekend you get to kind of just take some time, reconcile yourself, and put some of that vision back into you. So as we start next week, with all this stupid loan behind us, we can get back to business and doing what we love to do and do best.
Well, thanks, Tim. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, everyone that's been here, not only today, but part of this week. This whole daily briefing for us has been a grand experiment, as well as the Slack channel, and it's been awesome. So it's great to have this community helping everyone. Like, I really do firmly believe that as an industry, we can make each other stronger. So Tim, I appreciate that encouragement. Reminder that free sales pipeline module, I just posted the link here in the chat. It's also inside Slack, inside the welcome channel. So please take advantage of that, and I hope it helps. And everyone have a really good weekend. I hope it's restful and rejuvenating, and we'll see you back on Monday.
Yeah, have a great weekend.
Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend.